Okay, so we've got Colin on today, and Colin is somebody I met over my YouTube channel, Belgrade Beat, and he was asking me for some tips and tricks about getting into the expat life in Serbia. And so how did you? I told you that I ended up here by just like traveling and, from where my family was from in Bratislava, coming, a little south and finding this wonderful, vibrant city. How did you end up here in Serbia, in
Well,
Belgrade?
it's kind of a long story. I did a performance here at the end of last year, and I liked the place, so I thought I'd come back.
That's not a long story at all.
No,
What?
it's not a long story. I was living in Ljubljana at the time, and I thought it's very close. Why not go to Belgrade, do a concert, develop some sort of works with other artists that I really admire in Belgrade, and so I really dug the place. I
Yeah.
just
It's
came back.
something about it that it's like that golden mishmash of like a stable Central European society plus yeah. Oh, we lost your video again. Can you stop and start that again? We've got a lovely frozen frame of you drinking that beer or whatever it is, but yeah, this inevitably happens. So we've got your voice still, I think. Are you still there? Huh, maybe we don't have your voice. Hmm. Testing 1, 2. All right. Okay, we're back,
I,
folks. Yeah.
I think it's going to happen a little bit like the internet
It
will drop
happens.
out
I
again
mean,
now.
the biggest complaint I have on my podcast channel right now is like, yeah, the audio quality issues. Yeah, but it
No,
is what it is. You're just watching two people talk on a Tuesday evening on Zoom right now. So deal with it, internet. Deal with it.
well, like Zoom's pretty good for audio if you turn on the original sound.
Oh yeah, Zoom's good. Yeah, Zoom
Yeah,
is.
Zoom's good.
I love it, and also like just that it does pretty good noise cancellation. I find maybe it's this Sennheiser headset I use, but
Yeah,
also the editings that it sort of does, like when you turn it to speaker view and cloud record, it actually edits the person who's talking. It will be on them, and then it switches it to the next person. But for this one, I'm doing the us two next to each other view, and that's also
okay.
really cool. So yeah, so you are a sound artist. How would you define it? How would you say it? From
I guess
Australia.
yeah,
What?
I'm a sound artist. I'm a sound artist from Australia.
Yeah.
I'm originally a musician. I used to play in musical acts in Australia. I toured up and down the east coast of Australia quite a lot, and then did other kinds of bands and played for different politicians and businesses, and then I became a sound artist somehow.
Yeah. And was it something, I mean, because like when I look at myself and my music, it's something that really started when I was a teenager. Do you find that music is something that took hold of your life when you were a teenager or a child or what?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I used to record these cassette tapes when I was about 5 or 6, and I didn't know how to play music, so I just make up music, which was basically kind of what I do now, just using any sound to make music. Sometimes I'd get the saw out and saw something and record it in a collage and put it together and use the stop and start and go to different sections, and then I learned how to play guitar, became professional. Then I went back to sound art, which is kind of what I was doing as a child. But to get there, I won an international award in Italy called the Priatelia for the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, and that kind of threw me in a different direction, because that was a combination of musical composition and sound art that won this international award.
Excellent. And so have you done much cinematic stuff as well? Like
I've
movie?
done some short films and a feature film. A lot of my colleagues that I went to university with went down the film soundtrack vein, but I got pushed into this. I got these opportunities to make these very strange sound artworks, and I got one of them was about. I'm not sure if all the viewers would know the story, but Thomas Dylan's Under Milkwood. Under Milkwood was originally a play for words for radio. So when I read the text, all the words suggest all these different sounds of the place. So I went to all the places where Dylan Thomas was inspired to create the original text-based work and recorded all the sounds of the place and tried to make the work based on all the sounds. That later won an award in New York for best sound artwork. So this is kind of what I do, is like I get this idea, I get a concept and build on the concept and make this sound-based musical composition out of it.
Do you find, I've always thought that sound and music has a more direct channel to the human emotions than visual stuff.
For sure it has.
Do we just think this because we're musicians and
no. This is the way I think about it. It's like you're a Stone Age man back, thousands and thousands of years ago. You can see the world, but really what you need to survive and to act quickly is if you hear something behind you, creeping up behind you, you have to instantly react emotionally and run. Like if you see something in the distance, you can objectify it and think about it. But sound is instantly, it's triggering this primal part of our brain to run, to feel something, to do something. Sight doesn't do that. You can look at the thing and go, oh, it's not a pretty thing.
I was riding my bike down a road in Thailand.
You got an argument.
No. In Thailand, and all of a sudden I'm riding the bike down this road, and it's kind of like jungly. It's on an island, and all of a sudden this big green snake comes out from the road, and I did react pretty fast, but maybe it was not as visceral as if it were a sound.
Yeah, true. But well, this is the other example. You're in a cinema, you're watching a horror movie, and all of a sudden the pictures stop, but you can still hear the movie. Is it as scary as watching it?
It's kind of more scary.
It's more scary. But if you do the reverse, you're watching a horror movie and the sound stops and you just watch the pictures, can you just sit there and go, oh, okay. It doesn't really, touch you or dig as deep.
Yeah.
I don't think.
It's, yeah. I mean, yeah, the sound thing, because it's just I think it's a part of experience that a lot of people just take for granted, but yeah.
The other example is like, you got two lovers running together on top of a hill. It's a sunny day, and you know that they've been apart and they're going to kiss. And you play the most romantic music, and you go, okay, I get that. But then you rewind the tape, and then you put like Metallica or some death metal piece, and it takes on a whole different dimension.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like actually, this is one of the things that I see. Like I took a YouTube course a few years ago when I was starting up my channel, and one of the exercises was to take the same clip and put different music to it to see how it alters the emotions. And it's the most amazing thing. And yeah, I mean, sometimes I think that it's like.
But I think the key word is how it alters the emotions.
Yes.
And that's what sound does. It directly connects with emotion.
Yeah. And so like in being the singer of a band, singer-songwriter of my band leader, whatever the whole egotistical thing is, like sometimes it was just the most surreal moment to be in front of a crowd of people singing my truth with the songs that I wrote and the weirdos that I got to play the instruments behind me and being the freakiest one of them all and being up there and says, is this really a job? And it was just such a difficult job, actually. Like now that I'm making business in the IT industry, it's much more straightforward. It's much more, I don't know, easy to make a structure that will prevail in terms of something that's scalable and stuff like that.
Yes.
I mean, why is music and sound, when it comes to business, so hard in your opinion? I mean, maybe you've been successful, I don't know, but I found
what context are you talking about, business and sound?
Yeah, okay. So since it's such an emotional thing, everybody, I would find that you don't attract these people into the art, especially bands and stuff, and touring bands especially. You don't attract people into the whole thing that are very rational or organized. You get, since it's an emotional,
Oh,
artistic, passionate sort of endeavor to begin with, and you're selling the
but it's,
emotions. Yeah, it's
yeah, but that's kind of music. If we open it up to a broader concept of sound, think of a Ferrari car, a Ferrari, and the
yeah,
sound it makes. It's
yeah,
no accident. It sounds like that.
yeah.
That sound has been totally tuned as much as the motor, the engine itself, to sound like that. So you get the experience, the emotional response of driving that car.
Yeah, it's like a audio branding thing, actually.
It's audio branding, yeah.
Yeah.
All we do with I think with a musical group is that you're doing that audio branding in a different way.
Well, if only I thought of it that way. If I was that enterprising and structured and business wise about it, for me, it's some sort of ridiculous way that I express the unexpressed truths of my soul in a way that I need to stand up on a stage and share my emotions in the world with the world and have people watch me and all this stuff. It's pretty fucking ridiculous, and the endeavors towards it are, I don't know.
Yeah, no. It's the truth. What you're
And
doing is the
and
truth.
then what am I selling in the end? Vibrating air.
Yeah, but you're selling your personal truth to the audience. That's basically it.
Yeah, but then there's an existential crisis that comes there, like, who cares about my truth? Who cares about any of this? But actually, I think a lot of the time with
But,
my gypsy punk band, I was actually selling for the uh,
not
I
so
was
many,
selling a
not so many.
party. I was selling
Yeah,
people getting drunk and dancing more than I was selling
yes,
anything to do with me.
yeah. But when it comes to audio branding, everybody a few years ago wanted to know Bono's personal truth.
Yeah.
And what was he doing? Like standing up, trying to express himself, I assume. And it's, like if you think of it as a business, he branded the business quite well.
Yeah.
His audio branding was really targeted and developed over a number of years.
That's good pop music. It has to be that. I mean, it has to be that mass appeal. Singing about love, for example, is the most popular tune because it's kind of like the base urge that society provides us fewer avenues um,
Yep.
to express.
Yeah, but it's not singing about love. It's how you frame love and how you have the perspective on love that gives you your voice as an artist. And that's what artists do. They frame things from a different perspective. They give a different voice to a common subject or a common thing that everybody knows about. That that's it's Bono did it his way. All great artists kind of do it their way. Dylan, um, Bob Dylan did it his way.
And to
But
twist the
it's a
concepts of society into a way that it's somehow digestible and provides insight into
it's
somebody's.
but commercial music it's also you got to be at the right place at the right time, do with the right
I know.
thing,
My dad
and
was
that's
in the music industry like my whole life when I was growing up, so I know very, very well about. But he was a business guy in the music industry, so the real industry sort of type of person. He owned studios, he promoted concerts,
yeah.
he worked A&R for a record label and all that stuff. I grew up around that, and so it's like part of me thinks like that, but part of me also then became a singer-songwriter who didn't really care about the commercial success of his music. I just wanted to have a good time and speak my truth. And so it's kind of the opposite. And I don't know, I've played more than 250 shows around Europe, but it just takes so much fucking energy to keep it going, actually.
Yeah, you must be very good. You've played so many shows.
Well, for serving the function of
Oh,
a folk punk band with Balkan influences, showing up in the different parts of Europe and playing a rocking set with a singer that stares into the crowd like this, has these crazy eyes and screams and makes everybody jump. And yeah, I'm good at that job.
Yeah, well, that's I can imagine that you are. I'll have to come to one of your shows one day,
I hope
or
I
one
have
one
shows
night.
one day soon. I hope I have
Yeah,
shows some. I only had, yeah, because I've been focusing on actually, like, I'm 37 years old, so I've been focusing on like actually building a business that I can live off of for the rest of my life and all of that entrepreneurial stuff the last 4 years. So I've been playing very few shows over the last 3 years, let's say. But now things have mellowed out to the point where I would take more. And now this Corona crisis. So
no, what's changed everything, didn't it?
yeah, it's kind of like, where does that leave you and for sound and music? How has this changed your life?
Well, I just work on composing rather than performing.
Yeah, do you have stuff on the internet that you can do? Like
Yeah,
jobs?
that's jobs. That's jobs. It takes a whole different perspective, and you have to adapt. And like the Australian government's quite good because they encouraged all their artists to adapt to the corona crisis and gave them some assistance to adapt.
So
To be
you're able
to be
to,
resi-
yeah, to be supported on your journey by the
yeah.
government. Yeah, we have a lot of that in Canada, but because I never applied for it because I left Canada, I didn't think it was fair. But yeah, I probably could since it's technically Canadian music that I make. But I don't know. I was always like punk DIY style. It would almost be like a little bit feel disingenuous to take a government handout for what I'm doing because it's so
Oh, it's not.
anti.
No. You work for it.
Yeah,
You work probably.
yeah,
You work longer than you would for a normal job. Like this is. Let's face it. Like you apply for a grant, any
yeah.
arts grant, you're going to work for a lower wage than any kind of
Oh yeah,
normal job.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like that thing that everybody wants in their life, and it's like the flavor to food. You need to eat to you need to eat to not die, but you want food that tastes good. It's like you need to consume ideas to live as a human being in civilization, and then art would be the ideas that are actually palatable to the meaning of your life as a human being. So it's like eating,
Well,
like not having art in your life, I think for a lot of people would be like not having good food. But I feel that a lot of people are happy with McDonald's and like for food, and that the sort of like crack like flavor of the high fructose corn syrup injected into meat or whatever it is that they're doing on every level to make it the most appealing, like fast, like instant satisfaction of eating junk there is. Like a lot of people do go to the artistic equivalent of that stuff a lot of the time,
mm,
and they go for fast food, fast music, fast culture, fast. How have you succeeded in getting people interested in more nuanced ideas in terms of your art?
finding a much more narrow audience, but a much more loyal audience.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
exactly. Yeah, so I tell my friends, like I have musician friends here in Belgrade, and they often tell me like, so say I have a band member and he plays on Thursday nights in the kafana here, and he's playing cover songs of like you know whatever it is that the owner of the bar wants. If it's like soft rock, Sting and all the hits
mm,
of that, and he'll play that. If it's Serbian pop music, he'll play that. Whatever it is, I don't really enjoy going to see him play because he also plays in my band, and that's something that we all really unite to because there's a message, a really international sort of out there message. And when I go and see him playing in the cover band, for example, I will feel like I own a fusion restaurant and I'm watching the cook in my fusion restaurant who does a great, wonderful, innovative dishes of mixing, you know, Ethiopian spices in a Mexican dish and whatever it is, you know, and then you go and you see that same person working in McDonald's and cooking there and, you know, just like pressing the button to fry the burger for 30 seconds and all that stuff. That's the artistic equivalent. And it really frustrates me, the music scene in Belgrade, because it is so lowest common denominator that there's probably more cover bands in the city than original music bands that have gigs, basically, and that really makes me sad. So what did you encounter in the music scene here so far?
You touch on a lot of things there, like from what I understand of my short stay in Serbia, it's much more capitalistic in its approach to everything. So of course the mainstream stuff is going to percolate at some sort of level, but it still has this undercurrent of people that want to do their own stuff and their own experimental stuff and their own different approaches.
There definitely is that, yeah.
Yeah,
do you
but
find
it's kind of those two things. It's an awkward relationship between the two, because as you said with your friend, it's like,
oh, your video froze again. Can you just stop and restart that?
Sorry. So you make a distinction between craft.
Oh, we're good. We're good. The video is back. Sorry.
In certain ways.
Oh, I think your internet's a little weak.
We're back.
We're back. I paused it this time, so we didn't have the long pause. So basically, yeah, I mean, there's lots of people on the underground in Belgrade.
Yeah.
But they don't really have venues anymore.
But you had some really great bands from here, like not so many decades ago, you know, KVP and bands like that. Like, it's got a history of really interesting music coming out of this location. And in the alternative pop sort of underground sort of vein. And it's probably because it's reacting to a lot of the situations and that happened over the decades here.
Yeah, there is something here that's
my naive kind of impression. I've only been here for a short period of time, but it's still got that kind of level of richness. If we
there is a cultural richness and uniqueness here in Belgrade that I feel is oozing in the streets, oozing in the culture, and is really inspiring for me. But I feel that something happened after, you know, in the first part of this century, in the first part of the 20th century, to the Serbian and Belgradian identity, where everybody started to think that this was a bad place to be and that the culture here was not good and all this stuff. And the people who can successfully draw inspiration from that, people who can successfully channel that into art, is really interesting. But a lot of people will just actually want to ignore all of that and take the latest cover band playing American songs. Or
yeah. There's that temptation, but I've been watching RTS Music, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And some of those bands are really good.
Yeah.
And they're local bands. They're kind of doing the kind of thing from this area. Others are, you know, mimicking the US sort of sound and stuff. But some of them have really got their own kind of style.
Yeah. But yeah, I think there's a general lack of perspective on what this culture means for the world, what this bridging point of European civilization with the rest of the world, how significant this is, how significant of a place like Belgrade is for being the place that embodies that merging of the Middle Eastern, Mediterranean culture and the Central European and all that stuff. And if people could just appreciate, because it seems like the society has been divided into like folk and modern music in a lot of ways. And there's the turbo folk, which is a modernization of the folk music, which is the people who are actually into like modern Western music would view as the worst thing that ever has been created, which to an extent I do agree that it is quite tasteless at times, but there's a few bangers in there that sometimes I really enjoy some production there. But it's like I just feel like this city still has like a schizophrenic paradoxical personality, and
That's the interesting part of it.
yeah, that is the interesting part of it. It's a
That's the
paradox of
interest.
itself.
Yeah. That's the thing that makes it interesting. That's probably one of the reasons I came here too, because it is that that dissonance that hasn't really settled. It's still a lot of things up in the air. You go to other cities like things are settled in its own formula, but here it feels like things are still formulating, and that's exciting.
That's exciting because people are open for new ideas.
Yeah. If you get too fixed,
Yeah, there's like always a chance that people can you know you can, and also being a foreigner here, you get a lot of sort of curiosity from people, I would say.
yeah, well, that's I've found it like I've got inspiration out of the place because it's so different to where I came from, and it's such a different way of doing things and thinking about things, and like even recently with the riots here, that being so close to them, like it would not happen in Australia like that. It's just Australian culture is nothing like the culture here,
Yeah,
and
that's what
it's
I found with Canadian culture as well. I
yeah,
mean, it's like there's something visceral and direct about this part of the world, something really honest about it,
oh, it's
where
yeah,
it's real, and you just see
right.
like people don't really bullshit in the way that they present themselves. You know who they are, they're
No,
wearing it on their sleeve, and it's like
right.
it's hilarious at times, it's really sad at others. It's like you can really be inspired by some people and really feel sorry for others, and it's like a wide spectrum of human emotion that people just let out without this sort of fake sort of individualist boundary.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, that's generally what I think too. It's so different to other parts of Europe like that. Like you go to Paris, and it's go to the UK, it's kind of got its own style, and things feel kind of settled. But here, it never feels totally settled,
Yeah, and
which is which is the good thing.
also this culture takes influences from other cultures without actually sacrificing or relinquishing the core identity of itself, I find.
Yeah. I agree with you on that one. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, there's something core that still it's never going to be. It won't disappear.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think actually British culture is similar in the way that it does that, but they've got an island, so they had like a nice buffer through which they could do that. French culture um, also has a sort of way of appropriating different cultural influences with, I'm not talking about cultural appropriation. I'm talking more about like the idea of like interaction with different cultures and absorbing them into your culture rather than but it's a way that I find that Serbian culture has done this by being conquered by other cultures. It's done it by being mixed with different like being having other people in their pockets and being in the pockets of other nations and all of this stuff. And it's really unique because it's kind of like a big nation mentality for a really small nation compared to
Yeah, it is.
it's a tenth of the size of the UK. It's and Germany and countries like that. And but it's like it's got it's got something. And
It does. Yeah,
but
it's
what it
definitely
means to you or me is very different than what it means to someone who's born here.
absolutely. Like as an outsider, you see it so differently.
Yeah, you're coming
But
from a more developed culture.
well, let's let's say that. But every culture is developed and develops in its own way, is what I would argue. But there is a very rich culture here, and it's like you feel it as soon as you get off the plane, and it's
Yeah.
very different even to Slovenia or
Oh,
Croatia,
definitely. Because
and which is
Slovenia was more sheltered by a mountainous terrain and a more stable political situation over history. So it's very different.
absolutely.
Yeah. So my people are from the
You
Austro-Hungarian
feel that.
Empire, yeah, and I know that history, that part of the world, and but to see that sort of challenge, like being my father's family is like from the Austro-Hungarian Empire, like totally, and literally like had to leave because of the end of that or whatever happened in the 20th century happened, and I ended up being born in Canada, and that was a very stable thing. He's very civilized, very stable, very progressive for like a empire in the 18th century, 19th century, and stuff like that. You know, trying to whatever raise literacy rates. You know, they had the classical music and all that sort of stuff. And then to see that that empire was ultimately brought down by the dream of this small Serbian nation, um, and assassinating a ruler of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and that's what triggered World War One, which pretty much wiped it out. It's fascinating, and it's like part of me sort of feels like there must be some unfinished business in this part of the world. So yeah, we are frozen again.
Oh, we're back again.
We're back again. I learned how to click pause now when this happens, so it's not so exhausting for the viewers to have to wait for the next sentence, which is now. Why don't you go back to Australia during this coronavirus crisis?
Oh, it's a little bit difficult. Australia's restricted the number of people that can go back.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. Even as a citizen, it's you know, dropped by 25 or more percent that they will take back. And if you go back, it's like there's mandatory
Quarantine.
quarantine, of course. But they literally cancel flights on people that are coming back.
Wow. So you're stuck in Europe for now.
I don't mind. But that's one of the reasons that I don't want to go back at this point in time. And plus, you know, who wants to get on a 24-hour flight with Corona?
Yeah,
It's
I
not.
flew back from Thailand in May, and that was not fun.
No,
No.
I can imagine. Like there must have been in the back of your brain that turning things.
Disease, fear, like
Yeah,
whispering in my head, disease, fear. You look, everybody's in the masks. Disease, fear, the whole time. And it was like, ooh. And I
yeah,
got
yeah.
to, because Thailand did a really good job on Corona. When I went there, they had 39 cases in March 1st. And when I left there, May 25th, they had 65.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And it had gone up to 3,000 and then back down. So they did a really good job. So when I got off the plane in Amsterdam airport, it was the first time I was actually in the place with the actual corona, by my estimation. So I mean, like, oh man, it's a devastating blow for people who play music live.
Mm.
It's a
Oh, it is.
devastating sort of, even recording music has become really difficult.
Yeah,
Because the
I think
guys
it's
who, you want to
one of
hire a
the
session musician, right? And the session musician has been with, like here, once they ended the lockdown in April, no, in May, they ended the lockdown and they were like, business as usual, everything's fine. And then they all went out and got gigs. So a lot of the musicians that I knew, a few of them got corona. A few of them got,
for sure.
yeah. And then so you want to book sessions with those guys. Well, it's when was your scare? When was your thing? When was the last time you were tested? It's like everybody's like a sexual partner now, even if you're just meaning to hang out with them. So
Yeah, it's pretty much like that. Yeah.
it's not gonna end anytime soon, I think. I mean,
No. It just social interaction or social intercourse requires protection.
and yeah, so I'm a hand sanitizer junkie at this point, and just like,
Absolutely.
and the mask when I go in anywhere inside, and it's just like, this is like, at least you can still go outside. That's the thing. But I am getting the hell out of here wherever I can before November, basically. That's kind of my thing.
Well, yeah, where do you think you'll go?
If I can get back into Thailand, that's where I'm at.
You're going to go to Thailand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my second home now. This is my first
Yeah.
home. Canada doesn't even count as a home anymore. I'm going to go to Thailand because it inspires me. Something about So I've lived in Europe, in Belgrade. Basically, it's been my home since 2008, but I was coming and going between Canada and here for 3 years. Then I lived in London for 1 year, and since then I was here. But about 3 years ago, I started going to Thailand for the winters. And all the freshness when I was living in Canada and coming to Europe, and all the sort of excitement of landing in Europe and feeling it, now I feel like that's been transferred another 6 time
To
zones
Thailand, yeah.
to Thailand. So now when I go to Asia, I feel the same sort of excitement that I used to feel when I was coming to Europe. And it's like, how many more, how many more places in the world can I find that inspire me like that? So I got locked down there, March, and it was good. I enjoyed March, April, May. I was there, and just on that island, getting my routine sorted out. I don't know, something there. Yeah.
Oh, we're back again.
Oh, we're back again. Yeah, I paused it before anybody even knew we were gone this time. So.
Oh, okay. So
Oh,
Thailand's the new one.
I feel like it's having lived on the sort of line of familiar and exotic for many years. The familiar exotic became very familiar, and it changed me to a point that I was ready for complete exotic, which is yeah.
But you speak Serbian, don't you?
Yeah. Like as much as
Thai?
I started. Like I the other night I was on like Friday night I was lying in bed and listening to these tapes of Thai, and I think I can because I've heard it enough now that it's like kind of in there. But the thing when I learned Serbian is I started to listen to the things that people are saying around me, and the whole place becomes much less magical when you know what the people are saying and how stupid some of the things they're saying are, and how mundane.
There's that.
Not even stupid, but mundane, I would say, and how pointless some of the conversations are. So that became kind of like, once you learn a language, the mentality follows quickly behind. If you're emotionally perceptive to, all of the words and the ways of explaining things, and then the sort of tonality. I think a lot of people, when they're learning a language, actually do not pay enough attention to tonality and the way that the music of the language actually permeates the modes of self-expression, and also body language, of course. A lot of people, when learning other languages, especially native English speakers, they tend to just pronounce the words as best as they can and think that counts as speaking the language. Like, no, you need to go and take the mannerisms of the language. And I've even taken a lot of the way that people in the Balkans express themselves and put it into the way that I speak English as well. And that makes me exotic to a lot of people back home, because they're like, you seem a little foreign. It's like, well, yeah, but whatever. I also grew up with grandparents and stuff, and with accents and stuff raising me. So it's like, it's part of that is claiming that. And learning a language, I think, like learning Thai would be an interesting thing, because Serbian was more me than the way people speak English in Canada. I think it was more like me, but Thai will be making a completely different character of myself.
Oh, for sure. It's a completely different culture.
Yeah.
And way of thinking.
I'm not sure. It would take a long time for me to think like them, but I definitely do like the vibe when I'm there, because it's a very hospitable, like respectful, non-intrusive culture. And after living in Serbia, where it's very in your face a lot of the time, I feel that that was the next thing to balance, was the gentleness of my personality, because Serbia made me more aggressive and more upfront and more willing to drop truth in people's faces as a way of reaching understanding. Whereas like in Canada, they were always teaching me that the way to reach understanding with other people was to compromise yourself and draw yourself back and not say what's on your mind. That was the way to get along with other people. Whereas in Serbia, the way to get along with other people is to, let out the emotion first of all, and then listen a bit to the other person, see what they're letting out, play a little bit of a argument game, but then ultimately like start listening to each other and then work it out. It's the complete opposite sort of thing. whereas I feel like the Thai culture would be a third thing that's completely different, more towards the Anglo-Saxon sort of like laid back, sort of like respect other people thing and their space. But yeah, I don't know. There's so much to be learned in this world, and
absolutely.
so many stories to be told. And yeah. So what's the sound that most epitomizes Belgrade so far that you found in your...
Epitomizes.
Yeah.
The one that I've never heard before. It's like the tear gas.
Oh, yeah.
Epitomizes. I don't know what epitomizes.
That doesn't epitomize it at all, but it might epitomize the general perception of Serbia as like some sort of violent country around the world.
No, that's what I mean. Like I've never heard that before. That's probably the most exotic sound from it. So something that epitomizes the sound of the city would be probably the language.
Yeah.
And the intensity of how people speak the language, and the musicality of the language here, which is very different to the Croatian way. The musicality of Croatian language, which is basically the same, but the melody is different in a lot of ways, and a few words are different.
Yeah.
Or that's my understanding of it.
And the melody of the language defines in a certain way the national character of the people, of the way that people are interacting emotionally and all of that stuff. This is the stuff about language I think that a lot of people don't get, is that it's like you're trying to be an artist with the way that you speak. And I certainly always have tried to just like be a character with a distinctive sound, and yeah, it's like a brand. Your voice and the way that you express your language is a brand, and the more people get to know that brand, the more you'll have an audience, and the more so yeah, it's definitely it's a strange journey. So yeah, what's the most challenging thing that you've encountered in your career as a sound artist or musician?
Sustainability.
Yeah.
That's the most challenging, like for yourself as well as a musician. It's sustainability as an artist. How do you sustain the ongoing projects, one after the other, after another, and keep coming up with idea after idea and idea, and pitching it to different organizations that want those ideas, and find a place for those ideas.
So it's a mix of the sustainability of keeping inspiration and keeping output and finding an audience.
Yeah, well, I think you've said it better than I have.
Yeah. So okay, I'll share with you the one. Like I'm like kind of like the cottage industry, like singer-songwriter who, if there's an audience, I'm fine with it. If there's no audience, I'll just make music for myself. I've never, been living off of it really. Maybe for 1 year I did that, but yeah. The one that really got me is hearing loss.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was careless. It's one of those things that everybody warns you about, but you don't really listen. And then, you have a concert, and then you get drunk afterwards. You wake up the next morning, and you find yourself having ringing ears, and then it goes away after a day, and all that stuff. And then that sort of piles up, and there's like one incident, and then it's never the same again after that. So,
yes, yeah.
I would warn all the young musicians are out there, but it wasn't ever so bad that I couldn't hear music. It's just like stuff now. I have trouble telling which direction things are coming from.
Oh.
That's the thing. And I have trouble when there's background noise hearing people talk to me, basically.
So is one ear not working as well as the other ear?
No, they both work equally as damaged.
But with this directional thing,
no,
the spatial thing is, it's just you can't tell which direction so much.
It's a weird thing. So yeah, but still, when I listen to speakers or headphones, it's always fine. It's just when you take the headphones off or, turn the speakers off and walk outside, it's like, oh, wait, it's not good. So
changed.
anybody who's watching who's like a young musician out there, protect your ears. Like now I've got these custom earplugs that I put in every time I play with the drum kit, for example, and it's a much better thing. So I just wanted to put that out there in this because it's like, it's real. And I don't know what other stuff, I'm only 37 at this point, and I don't know what other stuff there is like that out there that's going to hit me in the face. But yeah, this one was bad. But not bad enough to separate me from my love for music and my livelihood and stuff like that. Yeah. So.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to protect your ears because that's your tools.
But I have this secret hope and fantasy that technology is going to save us, and that they're just going to like someday bring some stem cells into my ears, and they're researching this stuff, and there's going to be new ear hairs. I read that they're researching it. It might also cause cancer, but if I could say you're like 85 and you do your last tour with perfect hearing after having hearing damage for 45 years, that would be pretty glorious.
That would be good. Can you imagine what it'd be like to be Mick Jagger or somebody like that?
Yeah.
The healing level and to experience what you had just mentioned.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know, man. So where can people find out more about your work and stuff like that?
Well, if you go to www.colinblack.com.au,
that's
you
easy.
can find my website.
I'll put that in the description of this. Yeah.
And usually if you Google Colin Black with one L, you'll find my sites and my music. And if you're looking, just don't go to the American country Colin Black artist. That's not me. But if it's not country music, it's probably mine.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for talking on my YouTube channel and talking about music, life, sounds, emotions, and Belgrade.
Hopefully that was okay for you.
Yeah, it was good. It was really fascinating, actually. So I'm going to hit stop now. Bye, guys.
Bye.